Wahoo. What's going on, guys? What's up? We are here in Fantasy Intervention Land, ready to talk waiver wires and what the hell happened in week 8, because it was absolutely bizarre. It wasn't just the wind, it wasn't just the plays that were happening, but the actual players that went off and the touchdowns that were to be had. So it was such like a fucked up week that I actually had to bring in my buddy Nate with me. Nate, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Doing great, man. Not too bad. Can't complain.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked to have you on. You're new to podcasting, right?
Yeah, I've just been doing one with In Between Media for the last 3 weeks now. So just getting into it, man.
Well, I like a lot of the content you put out. So that's why I ended up, inviting you on the show. I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to see which players you might be interested in picking up. So let everybody know where to find you, man. And, what you're a part of.
So I'm a part of In Between Media. We're kind of a mix of life advice, football, fantasy football stuff at IBT_media at IBT_media on Twitter. I am at JanateJack 2017 on Twitter. Also inbetweenmedia.com. That's everywhere we're at.
Awesome, man. And what is your podcast about? Like, what do you guys talk about?
Podcast is strictly football, man. We just kind of dig into some start sits, some guys we're high on, some sleepers, stuff like that. Good content. We got 3 good guys that know what we're talking about, and we try and have fun with it too.
Very nice, man. Very nice. I'm actually stoked to check it out because I have not had a chance to check it out yet, but that is coming up this week. So yeah, I'm actually really excited to check that out because I know you guys are a bunch of good people over there who have good information, good content. I follow you guys constantly. So yeah, what's going on, guys? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with week 8 and what happened. What's up, TK? What's up, Mike? Daddy's home. FF, we got our show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Make sure you guys check that out as well. But yeah, what the fuck happened with week 8? Like, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, right? And when it comes to the top 10 quarterbacks that finished out, we have Stafford, Herbert, Rivers, Locke, and Drew Brees that finished out in the top 10 tight ends, right? The top 10 quarterbacks. That was absolutely brutal. But then I go back and I look at it and I see Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, but then it goes Giovanni Bernard, number 3 scorer on the week, tied with DJ Dallas. Then Nyheim Hines, right? Then we have like Jordan Wilkins, which is crazy. 2 running backs from the same team. You almost never see that. And it wasn't expected because of the fact that Jonathan Taylor was supposed to go off this week, and it drove me insane. Then we have Zach Moss. We have Jamal Williams, right? Derrick Henry, that makes sense. But then Justin Jackson, Damian Harris, Philip Lindsay, oh my God, the running backs were absolutely bizarre. Normally the running backs are, pretty consistent. And we expect the wide receiver position to be a little bit more, up and down, and the tight ends as well. But even looking at the wide receivers, you see, of course, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, makes sense. But then Corey Davis, all 5 of the games that he's played in, he's had he's had double-digit fantasy points. And I'm about to talk about that later. Brandon Ayuk went off. Mecole Hardman went off. Curtis Samuel, Mike Williams. It was bizarre, man. Even Marvin Jones Jr. had a hell of a game. Tight ends were a little bit strange, though. Last week, it was tight end week, right? Like, it was actually National Tight End Day. And, we saw, 16 tight ends finished with double-digit fantasy points. Meanwhile, this week, we only saw 11. So if you didn't have a top-end tight end, you were almost fucked to an extent this week. So, what did you see happening, Nate? What was going on this past week in week 8?
Well, my lineups looked terrible. I think like everybody else's did. You had guys like Troy Maine Pope in San Diego taking carries away from Justin Jackson and looking good doing it.
Yeah,
he was a guy I was looking at like, do I need to snag him? Probably not. But we saw Aqua Bonham get in the end zone again in Denver with Locke. Just loves him. Running backs were all over the place. I'm starting to wonder if I can trust Zeke anywhere with that Dallas offense. DiNucci he didn't look great, and now we're riding with him with another week. Bad. So what do you even do with Dallas?
Yeah, it was a tough week for a lot of people, and there were a lot of surprise ones out there, but a lot of it had to do with injuries, with COVID, with the win situations and how that worked out. So guys, week 8, you can put on the back burner. You can sit there and be a little bit cautious with what happened with week 8 and not overreact, because that's a big deal. What a lot of people do is they end up overreacting. It happened a lot in like week 2 or 3, when Devontae Freeman was going to be an answer. And it's like, no, don't go spend fab on Devontae Freeman. It's going to be a waste. It's not going to work out. So Devontae Freeman ends up going to the Giants, faces a brutal schedule, by the way. By the time he's ready to, rock and roll, he ends up having to face Philly a couple times, Washington a couple times. So that's what this show is, guys. we're trying to make sure you avoid the landmines, right? Those bombs that could absolutely explode your lineups, like the Devontae Freemans, who we told you not to spend fab on. Don't waste that money. So before we actually go into this, guys, before we actually talk about this, I do want to give a shout out to our brand new sponsor, Thrive. If you like to do prop bets, right? Thrive Fantasy is the answer. Hashtag prop up is the way to go. They've eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in their respective sports. All you got to do is choose 10 out of the 20 players to prop up your options to build your lineups. So if you guys go in there, right, and you guys check out Thrive Fantasy, use promo code CIRCLE from Join Our Circle _ Use promo code CIRCLE when you sign up, and you'll actually receive an instant match bonus up to $50 on your first deposit of 20 or more. So if you put in $20, they add in an additional $20. All you got to do is use promo code CIRCLE. So yeah, make sure you guys go check it out, thrivefantasy.com, and sign up today, guys. I'm excited. Excited to have them, as a sponsor of this show. So let's go ahead and jump into these waiver wire ads. And the first thing I want to address is actually going to be the quarterback streaming position. And, week to week, there's always guys that you can count on. There's always guys that you can look forward to being that smash play. And for me this week, very similar to last week, it was Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was out there on waivers, and he had an absolute smash play up against the Falcons. Well, guess what? We got it again. We got another smash play this week. He's up against Minnesota. He's my number one. Even with Galladay out, Marvin Hall, Quintez Cephas, who we're going to discuss shortly, they're decent replacements and can make plays. Plus, you always have DeAndre Swift in the passing game as well. He did not have a great matchup as of last week, but this week up against Minnesota, I think that he could have a great game in the passing game. Minnesota bleeds up against good quarterbacks. I'm expecting another big week. What do you think about that, Nate? Are you a big Matthew Stafford fan this week?
I'm a big Matthew Stafford fan most of the time. But yeah, this week against Minnesota especially, you've got to start him. And if he's somehow floating around on a waiver wire, you've got to grab him. He's worth the cash in fab for sure. Especially, Minnesota their defense is just so bad against the pass.
Yeah, it really is. And I am going to answer, by the way, the Green Bay backfield question when we get to it, guys. We're sticking to a show sheet. So, yeah, it's something else where I'm going to be, streaming Matthew Stafford in areas that I have streamed quarterbacks. The other guy that I'm going to bring up is, of course, Derek Carr. Derek Carr had a roughly week last week because that wind was absolutely insane. It was blowing balls left and right. And plus, he should have actually had another touchdown that got called back. Henry Ruggs was in there, man. Did you see that? Did you see how they called out the Ruggs touchdown?
No, I actually missed that. Oh, no,
yeah.
You know what? I take that back. I did see it because that was a touchdown.
That was a touchdown.
It was a touchdown.
And they called it back. Yeah, they got the Chargers, and then they have Denver, and then they have Kansas City, and then they have Atlanta, and then they have the Jets, and then they have Indianapolis, and then they have the Chargers, and then they have Miami. Outside of maybe two games, like let's just say Kansas City, although he looked badass up against Kansas City in their first matchup so far this year, this is a quarterback that I can not only stream, but I can actually keep on my roster week after week after week and continue to play him. Derek Carr is my number 2 pick for streaming options, but I like Derek Carr moving forward as well. I think he's a waiver wire must add.
Well, he's got good weapons there.
Great weapons.
Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, Josh Jacobs. I love him. I love him rest of the season.
Yeah. Oh my God, the matchups are just absolutely insane. I'm buying up everywhere I can get Josh Jacobs. So yeah, Derek Carr is my next pick. My third pick, right, is going to be Jake Luton, and this is more for like deeper leagues or 2 QB leagues. We already actually talked about him last week and said you should add him, prior to the waivers last week, just in case something happened or just in case they decided to go off Minshew. Minshew is losing that locker room over there. On top of that, obviously, he's dealing with this issue. So this guy's 6'6", 224. In college, he threw 28 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. So he has the tools to succeed, but he was a 6th-round pick for a reason. I still want to play him in 2 quarterback leagues because he does have the Texans this week who look like they're about to just flush their entire season down the toilet. How are you feeling about the Texans? How are you feeling about Jake Luton up against the Texans?
I like it. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks go off against Houston, and with Chark, Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault, James Robinson, I see no reason he's not a good stream this week.
Yeah, I think it's a great stream for those deeper leagues, not for, like 10 or 12 team leagues.
Right.
Or 2 quarterback leagues, of course. Now, let's go ahead and dive into running back. All right. These guys should already be on your roster. J.K. Dobbins is an absolute must-add for me if he is not already on your roster. We talked about it last week. Ingram has a high ankle sprain, and typically that takes 8 weeks, to fully recover from. So J.K. Dobbins is going to be a smash play for me, and he's almost matchup proof because the way that the Ravens run that offense. Gus Edwards is pretty much a must own for me and should have already been on your rosters as well. The guy is just a hammer. He just takes it up the middle time and time again. I think he ended up with 87 yards and a touchdown last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I swear these guys should both be on your roster. Now, along with that, the guys that also should be on your roster, I was sitting there screaming about McKinnon last week. I was screaming about DJ Dallas last week, and nobody was listening. But they ended up hammering it home. Of course, DJ Dallas ended up going out and having a 2-touchdown game. Meanwhile, I told y'all I believe Shanahan when he said he needs the rest day. McKinnon needs these rest days in with it, right? Like he needs that time to get off his feet because when he sustains big workloads, and we saw it with Minnesota, we saw it starting out over there with the 49ers, he gets hurt. He breaks down. Shanahan can't afford to lose anybody else. He can't. Meanwhile, the Seahawks actually struggle up against pass-catching running backs very similar to the 49ers. So both those guys tore it up. They are still guys that it must add, going forward, even if Chris Carson's healthy, even if Rashad Penny ends up coming back. I don't care. DJ Dallas is now a thing for the Seattle Seahawks, and I want him on my roster. Out of those 4 guys I brought up, Dobbins, Edwards, McKinnon, and DJ Dallas, which one's your favorite?
I've been on the Jerick McKinnon train all season. I love him. I think he fits really well in that offense. He's such a great pass-catching back. And as long as he's getting his rest days and staying healthy, I think he's a smash play.
I like it. All right, hopping on to the running backs that you want to add that should be on your waiver wire, and this is for the Green Bay guy who had to ask me 5 different times. Tyler Ervin is interesting if you're in a tough spot. If I have Aaron Jones, I'm definitely grabbing up Tyler Ervin just in case Aaron Jones does miss it, but I do think that Jones plays. Meanwhile, Williams and Dillon are both out with the COVID protocol and the game being on Thursday night this week. So Tyler Ervin, who's a pass-catching running back, just like I talked about with DJ Dallas and the 49ers struggles, this could be absolutely a game where Tyler Ervin could go out there and have, 7 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown very easily. Are you on Tyler Ervin this week? The Green Bay Packers like him.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to be with as thin as we've gotten at running back. There aren't a whole lot of options out there. Ervin obviously is going to get the majority of the carries this week. Just from a simple yard standpoint, if you need to plug a guy in just to get some points, you're not getting a goose egg out of a guy that's going to do nothing. I do like Tyler Ervin.
Yeah, Tyler Ervin for me, he's not a guy that I'm going out and throwing like 10% at, but not too many people are going to be aware of him. Like he's not going to be on the tip of everybody's tongues. I checked like 5 different sites just to make sure, and nobody that I saw had Tyler Ervin listed. So Tyler Ervin for me is a sneaky play that I think you can get really cheap. I throw like $2 at him and just see if you can snag him. Now, Zach Moss. I told y'all last week, so I didn't I told y'all last week, but I understand the hesitation. So I didn't include him with the guys that should already be on your roster because Zach Moss, he was kind of sketchy. But guess what? If you didn't grab him last week, he's probably going to be pretty pricey this week. This is how it's going to be, guys. We have Singletary with 9 out of his 14 runs coming on first down. 4 others came on second down and 5+ yards to go. He only had 1 touch in the red zone. So Singletary's in a position as to where he's going to get those, early down work where they have a ton of yards to gain. And that's how it's going to be. Like that's what's going to happen with Singletary. He's not going to get like that high volume, or I should say high production premium when it comes to that workload, but he's still going to get opportunity. He saw just as many runs as Zach Moss did. Meanwhile, 6 of 14 of Zach Moss's runs were inside of the red zone. 3 others were still on New England's side of the field. So he was getting work when they were in, scoring positions. So Zach Moss is always going to come away with those, high production premium type looks. Meanwhile, Singletary could end up having a lot more, explosive plays or big breakaway runs, although he's not the fastest or most explosive guy overall. That's how it's going to be. That's how this workload operated last year for the 49ers and how they're kind of using it this year. And that's how the Bills are going to utilize this going forward this year. So Zach Moss could have a game with 20 yards and 2 touchdowns and let you down completely. Meanwhile, of course, Josh Allen has like 2 touchdowns on the ground running. On the other end of things, he could end up having 3 touchdowns in one game and 40 yards rushing. It just, depends on the week and depends on the matchup. Are you going to be picking up Zach Moss this week?
As a Singletary owner, yeah, I've gotten burned by Zach Moss the last few weeks. I actually grabbed him last week and didn't start him, but I love him. I love him going forward. He's getting all that red zone work, and if he can just punch the ball across the goal line once to twice a game, in a lot of situations, I need those points so bad. It's worth it for me to go out and get him.
Yeah, if you're in a tough spot, Zach Moss is the guy. Now, I'm not going to be starting Zach Moss over Josh Jacobs or anybody like that, but he's a solid flex play going forward. Now, this one's kind of gross. So I was actually going to put that. Got some technical difficulties over there. So I actually was going to put this as one of my, sneaky additions, but I'm going to switch it up. And I'm going to put this in a guy that you don't want to waste your fab on. That's Jordan Wilkins. Taylor had an ankle issue, but Reich said he didn't know about it after the game. So I don't really know what happened over there. I don't know why Taylor didn't play. He must have missed a blocking assignment. I know that he wasn't very efficient overall. Or it could have had to do with the fact that that's how the game plan, having a bye week and going into this week. So, oh man, this is tough. They got to face Baltimore next week. So I'm definitely not picking him up and playing him. And I'm probably not going to spend a lot of fab on him. If I can throw a buck at him and get him, I'll take him, because he does have a really sexy schedule coming up with Tennessee, Green Bay, Tennessee again, Houston, Las Vegas, and Houston. So that schedule is absolutely sexy. And I want the starting running back on this team for this schedule. If it's Wilkins moving forward, that's a big question mark. I'm not exactly sure. So I don't want to waste a ton of fab on it. But if I can throw $2 at him, I'll go ahead and take that. Don't throw 10%. Don't throw 10, 15, 20%. I saw somebody saying that they would throw 25%. The same thing happened with Devontae Freeman, guys. You don't want to get a guy in this situation. Situation is obviously different from the Giants situation, but you don't want a guy in a situation as to where somebody else can be the lead back in this offense. Now with the wide receivers. With the wide receivers, this is something as to where the wide receivers are, oh man, I'm not going to say iffy, but in a difficult situation. Now, with the wide receivers you should have already had on your roster, this was a given. You have Corey Davis, who should already be on your roster. He's at double digits in all 5 games he's played in. I don't understand why he was ever dropped. Plus, Jonnu is being held in line with Lewin out. So, yeah, I'm going to sit there and think that Corey Davis is going to be an absolute stash on the roster. He's going to play in most weeks. Meanwhile, Mike Williams has Vegas, Miami, the Jets, Buffalo, New England, Atlanta, Denver on the schedule coming up. This guy, Mike Williams, could carry you to a fantasy championship, especially with all the injuries going on. So he should have already been in your lineups. But the wide receivers that I kind of want to put a little bit of a bid on, like a 10% bid, I'm trying to decide between Quintez Cephas and, of course, Hall. So which one would you go with over there in the Detroit lineup side of things?
I like Quintez Cephas. I just think he's got a little bit more flash, a little bit more speed, a little bit better hands. I think he's going to just pull more targets from Stafford this week than Hall will.
By the way, John, he did ask which Green Bay running back are you picking up? We went over it a little bit ago. Tyler Urban. If you want to check out as to why, the podcast should be out a little bit later this afternoon. So, yeah, I like Quintez Cephas. He saw 10 targets. I don't know if you said that or not. I was reading that comment. He had 10 targets in the week that Golladay was out week 1. He was a healthy scratch over the past 2 weeks, so it makes me a little bit nervous. Meanwhile, Marvin Hall probably has the bigger upside, but Marvin Hall has been a part of this offense for multiple years now, and I believe this is probably the biggest game, if not the second biggest game that he's ever had. So it is something as to where I do want both these guys and take a chance on them, but I think I'm going to lean with a higher bid on Quintez Cephas than I will with Marvin Hall. Now, Keelan Cole has the Titans this week, and Keelan Cole has been a major focal point of this offense, but he's very hit or miss. Are you spending any fab on Keelan Cole?
Probably not at this point. The situation in Jacksonville with Lutton coming in, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I'd hate to burn fab on a guy where we don't know what he's going to do. We don't know if he's going to be a key part of that offense or if it's going to flex more towards Chark and Chenault, or if they're just going to kind of keep it on the ground and maybe not throw much at all. Spending anything on him for me is just a little bit too risky this week.
Yeah, I still want to throw a little bit of fab at him, just see if I can get him. And I might play him if I'm desperate, absolutely desperate. But Keelan Cole, with the matchup, he should at least do a little something. like I said, if I'm desperate and I need like a flex, like I have nobody. Like last week, there was one team that I had out of my 28 teams that I play that had literally nobody else that was active in the entire roster. I played every single starter that I had. So if I'm in a situation like that, I think Keelan Cole is worth a shot. Meanwhile, Jacoby Myers up against the Jets is interesting because Jacoby Myers saw 10 targets with both Harry and Edelman out. And I know that he didn't do much with them, but he's still a young, developing receiver. And Cam Newton kind of proved to like him a little bit. So the more reps that he gets, the better he should be overall. And I think that if they sit there and they say, hey, we want Jacoby Myers to develop and be a big part of this offense moving forward, because guess what? The Patriots are most likely going to be in rebuild mode with one more loss. Then Jacoby Myers should be a big piece of this offense as they rest Edelman, for the remainder of the season, or at least, manage his snaps to try and keep him healthy. Are you picking up Jacoby Myers?
I am. I thought it was interesting. Belichick basically alluded to this season's over for them as far as trying to win. And I think at that point, to your point, if they want to develop him, they're going to have to start using him. And I think this week, especially against the Jets, it's a great time to try and just get him out there, get him those targets, get him those catches, get a little bit more familiar with the offense. I think he's a great play this week. I think he's somebody I'm definitely going after. I'm not going to spend a ton on him, maybe 5 to 10%, but that's about it.
So what about Curtis Samuel? Curtis Samuel is a guy that I'm not spending any fab on. CMC should be coming back soon, right? Did you hear the story about CMC, how they gave him a red shirt?
Yeah, and then he took it off when he got on the field.
And threw it at the coaching staff. He was pissed. He did not like that red jersey. So he should be coming back soon. And then Samuel goes right back to being the fourth option, which he kind of was already. But his utilization should drop. He's not going to be as much of a gadget player because they won't need him to be a gadget player. Like CMC is that guy. And it was already as sketchy as it possibly could be. It was kind of like a freak situation this past week, with the touches that he got. So I don't know when you feel safe playing him. So I'm not going to be throwing fab at him in hopes that he's going to end up having a, 1 week that I might feel safe playing him. It's something as to where I'm not touching Samuel, man. I think that's a waste of fab.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I got boned on that earlier in the season. Didn't love it. Dropped him. I want nothing to do with him at this point in that offense.
I'll take that. Now, the tight end that's starting to be under roster, we've been talking about it now for 2 weeks, is Dallas Goedert. He's worth it, guys. Dallas Goedert's going to be a tight end 1 for the rest of the season once he retakes that field. Overall, man, that team is getting healthier, which should open up targets and efficiency for Goedert to perform. He should already be under roster. But let's go ahead and look at a couple tight ends that we're going to be picking up. Are you going to be more of a Reed guy or a Ross Dwelley guy?
This is I'm kind of up in the air about it. Probably leaning more towards Josh Reed, just because he has proven production as long as he can stay healthy. Jordan Reed. Sorry.
You're good.
Jordan Reed.
It happens. I do it all the time.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm more on the Jordan Reed side with this. Again, proven production. Kyle Allen knows him. I can see him going off. I don't love Dwelley quite as much.
So for me, if I'm a guy that's streaming, I'll attack Reed, right? Because of the injury history, I can see him, kind of being used like situationally, but that could lead to some touchdowns. So if I'm streaming guys, I might be attacking Reed, for some weekly streams, especially this week. But if he's healthy this week. But Dwelley is somebody I think I'll go after in a redraft, primarily because of the injury history and because he's going to be a safe option and because they're probably going to use him more in the blocking range. So he's going to see that snap volume. He's going to see a higher snap count, which we all know they love to pass their tight end in, play action fake situations. So I think that Dwelley is going to be a safer play, but I'm absolutely making a play at both these guys. I just think I'm going to put more on Dwelley in like a season long where I need a tight end to take over for George Kittle. I'm going to spend the money on Dwelley. But if I'm a guy that streams tight ends, I'm going to be spending the money on Reed. Now, a guy that's interested and nobody's really talking about right now is Jordan Akins. He is returning from the injury this week, according to Cornell. Ramir Cornell's like, yeah, I expect him to play. So that's not a medical report, but that's what Cornell's saying. So I trust Cornell. Meanwhile, Fells, he's actually been very good, but he's been very erratic. Akins was the primary guy over there prior to the injury. So I expect him to retake that. Meanwhile, Fells will remain to be that second red zone option. So Fells, right? He only has 1 game of over 2 receptions this entire season. Meanwhile, Akins has 2 of the 4 games with over 2 receptions before he got hurt, obviously. They have Jacksonville. Then they have Cleveland teed up in the next 2 lineups. I'm expecting 2 massive weeks out of Jordan Akins this week. Do you like Akins? Are you messing with him with the whole, Darren Fells snap count?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think he'll retake his spot as a lead tight end. And the matchups coming up the next 2 weeks, like you really can't argue with that. I struggle with the Houston offense at times just because they've been so erratic. But I do like Akins here a lot.
I'll take that. All right, last guy, Albert Aquibunum, right? This is your guy, so I'm going to go ahead and let you take it.
All right, so I love Aquibunum. When Denver drafted him, he played with Locke for 2 seasons at Missouri. They combined for 17 touchdowns. And right now, I mean, you've seen it. Drew Lock needs all the comfortability he can get. He only saw 1 target last week, technically 2 with a pass interference call at the end of the game in the end zone. But he's taken red zone work away from Noah Fant. And, Lock's looking at him. And I think he's a guy you can get for cheap. He's out there everywhere on the waiver wires. I think he's a guy that you can consistently play the rest of the season. Yeah,
it's something that's where Jake Butt's been hurt. So I'm a little bit concerned about the, Jake Butt coming back and taking away snaps. Meanwhile, it's something as to where I'm also concerned with the volume. So in week 6, he did see 6 targets, crowd 2 of them. Then in week 7, he saw 7 targets and crowd all 7 of them for 60 yards. But then last week, he only saw 1 target, got in the end zone for a touchdown. He does have Atlanta coming up this week, so that's great. But overall, I feel like Denver's actually moving more towards single tight end sets versus doubles. They've been doing double tight end sets almost the entire year. And now looking at it, they only had 27 total snaps from Nick Vannett and Albert Aquibunum combined. Meanwhile, Noah Fant had the 51. So it does concern me a little bit moving forward. And I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm sold on Aquibunum. But if there is any place to pick him up and play him, it would be this week as long as Jake Butt is out.
Oh.
So Vannett's used as primarily the pass blocking tight ends and the run blocking tight end. Meanwhile, Aquibunum is going out on 95% of the snaps on passing downs.
Yep.
All right, so guy that I'm going to be staying away from, we're going to stick over there with the Panthers, and that's going to be Ian Thomas. Don't waste your fab on Ian Thomas. I don't get why people are sitting there saying, oh my God, he's getting the volume. You need to go pick him up. He had 3 freaking catches last week and took him for 28 yards. That's what you want your tight end to do? That's what you want your tight end to do. That was not good, especially in that matchup. Absolutely drove me insane that people are sitting there saying, go pick up Ian Thomas. You have Christian McCaffrey coming back, which we already brought up. They don't use, they've never used it. Joe Brady has never used a tight end. It's something as to where it's absolutely bizarre. Don't go waste your fab on Ian Thomas. Don't go do it. You're just literally shooting yourself in the foot. 100%. I don't care what the matchups are. I don't care what the matchups look like. I don't give a shit. It should never be a thing.
No.
All right, guys, make sure y'all check us out, of course, on Twitter at @joinourcircle_. You guys can find me at @FF_intervention. Nate, where can they find you?
You can find me at JanateJack 2017.
Very nice. And of course, make sure you guys go check us out on linktr.ee/fantasy intervention, where you guys can go check out our YouTube channel, our Twitter, our iTunes, and other social media platforms. Make sure you guys go check that out. Blue Crew, if you're still in with us, I will answer that question as soon as we do our sign off. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys go check us out. And thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. Go subscribe on YouTube. All right, that's going to end it for us. I'm going to answer this question from Blue Crew, if you'd like to help me out, and then we're going to get out of here. Cooter, you can still check out the replay. It was a good show. All right, trade feedback, please, PPR. Should I trade away Montgomery for Zeke? My other running backs are Kamara, Melvin Gordon. My other wide receiver core includes Thielen, Kupp, Godwin, T. Higgins, Hollywood. 4-4 wins with a 3-game losing streak. Oh, that's brutal. That's probably because of Zeke. I hate Montgomery. Montgomery was compared to hot dog water the other day, and I loved it. Montgomery's hot dog water, baby. Oh, I love it.
I just never got him. I'll never understand why people were always so hot on him.
Yeah, I don't get it either. He's not overly athletic. He's playing behind a bad offensive line. People are like, oh, it's the offensive line. Well, that's part of fantasy football, guys. Like, that's part of it. You have to have a
Right.
good, you're either going to be a dynamic athlete or you have to have a great offensive line. If you don't have both, if you don't have one or the other, then you have to have both, right?
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I said that right. I might have screwed that up, but either way,
I
good
think
thing
you're
this
right.
isn't going on the podcast. No, but anyways, guys, like Montgomery's trash for me. I'm throwing him in the garbage disposal, whatever it is, grinding him up into little bones. That's not how I killed my neighbor, I swear. Anyways, yeah, it's something I swear I'd be getting rid of Montgomery quick. Zeke, on the other hand, I think I'm going to hold on Zeke because his value might be an all-time low. If you can get, I don't know, what's a good wide receiver for him comparison-wise? Maybe we already have Adam Thielen. Maybe Robert Woods. You can get a Robert Woods for Zeke. I might take that. But your wide receiver core actually looks pretty solid overall outside of Godwin. So, yeah,
I wish I had that.
I'd probably hold Zeke because I don't think you're going to get equal value from him. Oh, maybe James Robinson. See if you can get James Robinson off the James Robinson owner. That's actually a good little markup. So,
yeah, man.
Anyways, with Montgomery, I don't even know what you can get for him. Maybe you can get a hot dog from that hot dog water. All right, guys. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate y'all. We're out of here.